Okay, so this is a little bit different just because the notes are set up on this piece of paper. So go ahead and you don't have to jot this down because hopefully you have a worksheet. If you don't have the worksheet in front of you, you are going to have to write all of this down, unfortunately. So mean, median, and mode is the topic, and this is topic number 20. So some of the main ideas that we're going to be covering today is that about a measure of central tendency is a value that describes the center or the middle of a data set. Let me go ahead and write that down. This is going to be a value that describes the center slash middle of a data set. So when someone says like the central tendency, right, sometimes they'll call it the average. There's actually many different types of averages. You can be talking about the average as a mean. You can be talking as the average as a median, or you can talk about the average as a mode. Okay, so you got to be a little bit more specific. Usually, people mean the mean. People mean the mean. People are usually talking about the mean. Okay, the mean is the one where you take the average of the values by adding them all up. Okay, so I'm going to write the average of the values because that's what most people tend to say. But what I mean is you're going to be using this formula. The mean is you're going to add up all the numbers, you're going to get the sum, and then you're going to divide it by the number of numbers. And I know you've seen this before, you've done this quite a bit. Okay. All right. The median is the middle value. This is the middle number when lined up in order. It is crucial that you put your numbers in order first when finding the median. You don't have to do that when you're finding the mean, but when you're finding the median, absolutely you need to line them up in order and then pick the middle number. Hey, if there's two middle numbers, then you got to take the mean of the two middle numbers, and you'll see that come into play later. The mode is the easiest one. It's the number that occurs the most. I'll put the value that occurs the most. And then the last one we're going to do is the range. The range is not an average. It's not a measure of central tendency. Okay, it just kind of tells you like how far apart the numbers are. Okay, so for the range, we are going to write that the range is the difference. Remember, difference means subtract between your highest and lowest value. It basically tells you like, hey, how far are your biggest and smallest numbers apart? Okay. All right, so here are the directions. The directions say find the mean, median, mode, and range of each data set, round the nearest tenth when necessary. Okay, so I want to find the mean. Remember that the mean is equal to the sum divided by the number of numbers. Just to save us some time, I'm going to go ahead and add up all these numbers right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that that number is 1,236. How did I get that number? All I did was I added them all up. Okay. But I'm not going to waste your time, like plugging them in a calculator in front of you. And then we're going to divide by the number of numbers. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 numbers. So we're going to take that number and divide it by 14. 1,236 divided by 14, I get 88.3. And so my mean is 88.3. Median, remember, very important that we write these numbers in order. So for the median, I'm going to write these numbers in order first. Let me go ahead and do that right now. Okay, here are the numbers in order. And then you're going to kind of work your way to the middle and see which one is the middle number, okay? Now, one of the things that I get a little scared of is, let me go ahead and just go left, right, left, right, left, right. So left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. I'm going to go a little bit slower, and I'm going to use different colors just so you can see kind of what happens. So I'm going to go left, and I'm going to go right. Now, what's going to happen sometimes is some students are going to go like this. Oh, just keep going. Left, and oh, my middle number is 89, but that's not true because remember, when you went left, you never canceled it with the right. So I see my pink and my pink. I don't have a red and a red. So really what that's saying is you have two numbers that are stuck in the middle. Sometimes you'll only have one number stuck in the middle, and that's great. That's going to be your median. But if you have two numbers that are stuck in the middle, like these two, my left and my right, then you're going to take the mean of those two numbers. We're going to add up those two numbers, 88 plus 89, and we're going to divide it by 2. And what I end up with is 88.5. So my median in this case is 88.5. I hope that made sense. If not, you're going to have to kind of use both fingers and work your way in. You're going to notice like, oh, wait, there's going to be two numbers in the middle, not just one. So there's my median. And then the mode is the easiest one that we're just going to go ahead and write down the number that occurred the most. In this case, there's a tie, right? The number that occurred the most. Well, let's see. There's only 182. There's a couple of 86s. There's only 187. Look, there are 3 88s. There's only 2 89s, but there's 3 90s. A 91 and a 92. So it's a tie between the 88s and the 90s. So you write down both. The mode or the modes are going to be 88s and 90. Both numbers occur the most. And then as far as the range, we're just going to take our highest number minus our lowest number. That means I'm going to go 92 minus 10. I'm sorry, 92 minus 82. I was already thinking of my answer. My answer is 10. All right, that takes care of the first one. All right, let's try to go a little bit faster on these ones. The number of points scored by a football team during their 16-game season. So first, we're going to find the mean, which means I'm going to find the sum divided by the number of numbers. I'm going to go ahead and add up all those numbers for you, and I get 399 divided by 16. When I take those numbers and I divide them together, I get 24.9. The median, I'm going to have to go ahead and put these numbers in order. So let me go ahead and do that right now. Okay, here are the numbers in order. And now we're going to go ahead and try to find our way to the middle. So at first I'm going to go kind of fast. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. I'm going to slow down now a little bit. Let's see, left, right. And it looks again like I have two numbers in the middle. Hey, what's in the middle of 25 and 25? Well, it's got to be 25. If you want, you can take the average of the two, but I mean, if there is no number in the middle of the two numbers, so it's got to be 25. What number occurred the most? I see that there are 3 25s here, and there is nothing that beats it or ties it. So it looks like the number that occurred the most was a 25. It occurred 3 times. And then to find my range, I'm just going to take my highest number minus my lowest number. So my highest was 45 and my lowest was 7. 45 minus 7, I get 38. Jenna's math quiz grades in second quarter were 78, 90, and those are the numbers. I'm going to find the mean. Mean equals sum divided by number of numbers. When I add up all of those numbers right there, I get 766 divided by 9. 766 divided by 9, when you round, you're going to get about 85.1. Median, I got to put these numbers in order. Let me go ahead and do that right now. Okay, here are those numbers listed in order. We're going to go ahead and find the middle. So I'm going to go left, right, left, right, left, right. Go a little bit slower. Left, right. And it looks like I only have one number in the middle, which in this case is going to be the number 84. So I do have a middle number. It's going to be 84. Mode is the number that occurs the most, and I don't see a number that repeats itself. So if that's the case, then we say that there is no mode. So I'm going to write the word none. Wow, that was a horrible writing. Sorry, it's late. And then the range, we're just going to take our highest number and subtract our lowest number. Our highest number is 98, and then our lowest number is 72. It's nice when you do the median because it's easy to pick off the highest and the lowest when you put them in order, right? So 98 minus 72, and I get an answer of 26. Okay, last one here. Let's go ahead and find the mean. So remember, to find the mean, we're going to get the sum. I'm going to divide it by the number of numbers. The sum here is 3,831. And if I were to count up how many numbers there are 7 numbers here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and divide those two numbers. And when I round to the nearest tenth, I get 547.3. Median, let me go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and write down these in order. Okay, here are the numbers in order, and I'm just going to go ahead and go left, right to get to the middle, left, right. Getting towards the middle, let me go ahead and slow down. Left and right, and it looks like I only have one middle number, which is 575. By the way, guys, if you have an odd number of numbers, like in this case, there are 7 numbers, then you're going to get a middle number, okay? Like on the previous example, I had an odd number of numbers. I had 9 numbers. Then you're going to get a middle number. If you have an even number of numbers, like in this case, there were 16 numbers, then you're going to have 2 middle numbers. And in the previous case, there were 14 numbers, again, an even number of numbers, you're going to end up with 2 middle numbers. So that kind of lets you know whether you're going to have a middle number or whether you have to take the average of the 2 middle numbers. Okay, that's a good check. All right. As far as the mode, what number occurred the most? Again, none of the numbers occurred multiple times, so there is no mode. And as far as the range, we're just going to take our highest number, which in this case was 794, and subtract the lowest number, which is 244, and the answer I get here is 550. All right, that takes care of the first side. Let's go ahead and move on to the other ones and see how we would do this. It says Trevon has 4 grades in science class so far, 97, 78, 89, and 94. If he has a test coming up, what grade would he need to, so his overall average is at least 90? So what we want to do is we want to set up an equation with a 5th score, but we don't know what that 5th score is. So we're going to call it X, okay? I know 4 of the scores, but they want a 5th score and they want it to be at least 90. So what they're saying is when I add in this, let's see, the first score was 97 plus 78 plus 89 plus 94. There's the first 4 exam scores. Here's this 5th score that I don't know. I'm going to call it X. And I know when I take this average, which means there's going to be 5 scores, I want this average to be at least 90. I want this to be greater than or equal to 90. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Let me go ahead and add up those numbers on the top. When you add up those numbers in the top, we get 358 plus X divided by 5 is greater than 90. What makes this problem so difficult is that divided by 5. So let me go ahead and get rid of that divide by 5 by multiplying by 5 on both sides. And I'm running out of space, so let me finish it up over here. That's going to give me 358 plus X needs to be greater than or equal to, it should have been an equal to, needs to be greater than or equal to 450. I'm going to subtract 358 from both sides. That means X needs to be at least, what is that, 92? So in order for him to have a 90 average, he needs to score at least a 92 on his next exam in order to get a 90 average on his exams. That's a pretty classic question, so please make sure you know how to do that. It's not too difficult. It's just you need to know how to set it up. Okay, it says Melanie ran the 400-meter dash 6 times during track practice. Her times are shown in the table to the left, so there's the table right there. If she drops her slowest time, which measure of tendency, which measure of center is affected the most, the mean or the median? Explain. Okay, so this is going to require quite a bit of work. first we got to figure out the mean and the median right now. Then we're going to drop the lowest score. We're going to find the median, and then we're going to see which one got affected the most. So first, let's say with all scores. I'm going to kind of split this up into two. All scores, if I wanted to find the mean, I'm going to add up all the numbers, which means I would add up the 63.5, the 67.9, the 64.3, the 63.6, the 65.4, the 64.7. We're going to add up all those numbers. We're going to divide by the number of numbers, which in this case is going to be 6, okay? And what we get is 64.9. I'm just going to go ahead and assume you did that. Remember, all we did was we found the mean. We added up all these numbers, and we divided by 6, and this is the answer we got. To find the median, we're going to put these numbers in order. You would put these numbers in order. Because there's 6 numbers, you're going to have 2 middle numbers. You're going to take the average of those 2 middle numbers, and the answer you're going to get is 64.5. Again, I'm not going to do it because at this point you should know how to do those things, okay? All right, so now what are we going to do? We are going to drop her slowest time. So that's kind of weird because her slowest time is actually the number that's the biggest. So if I were to drop her slowest time, that means I would look for the biggest one, which means that 67.9, we're going to get rid of it. Why are we getting rid of it? Because we're dropping her slowest time. Now, when I find the mean, I'm still going to add up all the numbers, but there's only 5 numbers to add up. I'm going to add up this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'm going to add up those numbers, and then I'm going to divide by 5, not 6, because again, there's only 5 numbers now. The second attempt got erased, so there's not 5 numbers to work with. When I do that, the mean actually went down to 64.3. And then as far as the median is concerned, same thing. We're going to line up these 5 numbers only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to put them in order. We're going to find the number in the middle, and then that number in the middle would be 64.3. Now that I have my data set, I want to compare these two. Let's see. The mean went from 64.9 to 64.3, which means that was a difference of what, about 0.6? The median went from 64.5 to 64.3, so that was only a difference of 0.2. So it looks like there was a bigger change in the mean than there was in the median. Why do we think that is? Well, because that 67.9 was so far away from the other numbers that it affected this mean score a lot, right? The median tends to look at what numbers are stuck in the middle, and that 67.9 wasn't anywhere close to the middle, okay? So I would say the mean was affected the most. Sorry, that should be affected, not effected. Because that 67.9 was an outlier. An outlier is a number that's kind of further away than the other numbers. Like, not like they're close, like they're kind of distance themselves, right? So like when you say 65.4, 64, 63, notice they're all in the 65s. Like they totally jumped 66 and they almost went all the way up to 68. So that time was really like a really, really bad time. It's not close to the other numbers compared to how far apart the other numbers are. Okay, we call it an outlier, which is exactly what they're asking for in the next thing. What is an outlier? An outlier is a data value that is much smaller or much larger than the others. Now, in this case, this outlier wasn't that egregious. It wasn't that crazy. Um, But there are times when you're going to get numbers like, like 42, 43, 46, 47, 41, and all of a sudden you get like 92, where you just go, whoa, where did that number come from, right? So that 92 would be a definite outlier, and it would hugely affect your mean, but it won't affect the median as much, okay? So now the question becomes like, when do you start using each one? Okay, so you want to use the mean when there aren't that many outliers. Okay, so we're going to write, we want to use the mean when there are no outliers. That's why sometimes when I look at the exams, most of the time I look at the median because there's usually an outlier out there. Like, most of you guys would be scoring like 70s or 60s or 80s, and then all of a sudden we'll get someone that scores like a 13, which is completely different from the rest of the data set, and it wouldn't make sense for me to look at the mean. Okay, when do you use the median? You use the median, when there are outliers. You also want to use the median when the middle numbers don't have this huge gap in between. When do you use the mode? You use a mode when you're getting a lot of the same numbers. Okay, when the data has a lot of repeated numbers. Like an 80, an 80, an 80, an 80, a 92, a 70, an 80. Like all of a sudden you go, okay, well, it looks like most of them are landing right on this 80. And so that's when you would want to use the mode. That would give you a good idea of what your class or what the data set kind of looks like. Okay. So to finish this out, let's see. They're asking, determine which measure of center best represents the data, justify your selection, and then find the measure of the center. So let's go ahead and look. I have the number of wins by a hockey team in the last 8 years is 56, 45, 26, 48, 54, 52, 49, 38. So the first thing I notice is there are no repeated numbers, so I'm not going to pick the mode. Are there any outliers here? Well, that 26 looks like it might be kind of far from everyone else. So I like that 26 kind of scares me compared to like the other numbers that tend to be like on the 50s and the 40s and whatnot. So I'm not going to pick the mean in this case. I'm going to pick the median. Um, so I kind of already said it, right? So no repeated numbers. And there's an outlier. As far as what is the median, you'd have to put these numbers in order. So let me go ahead and do that right now. Okay, now that they're in order, let's see. We're going to go ahead and cancel left, right, left, right, left, right. It looks like there's two middle numbers. We're going to take the average of those two middle numbers, which gives me 48.5. Would be the median for this set. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. It says the number of minutes that Ariana spent exercising each day for the past week. She got 35, 38, 32, 40, 45, 42, 36. First of all, I noticed that there are no repeated numbers. So I'm not going to use the mode. I don't see any number that's like super scary where it's like completely off. So I'm going to say that there are no outliers here. So because there's no crazy numbers, I can go ahead and go with the mean, which means I'm going to add them all up. When I add up all the numbers, I get 268. And then I divide it by the number of numbers. In this case, there's 7 numbers. And when I do that, I get 38.3 when I round to the nearest tenth. So I'm not using the median. I'm using the mean because there were no outliers. Okay. And when I look at the last data set, the scores on the math quiz are 80, 57, 70, 80, 80, 90, 100, 80, 160, 80, 50, 80, 80, 80, 70, 90, 90, 80, 100. Man, we keep repeating the numbers. Repeat the number 80 a lot. So I'm going to go with the mode, which in this case going to be 80. I'm not going to use the mean. I'm not going to use the median. I'm going to use the mode because that's the one that occurred the most. All right, that's all I have for today. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask.